week of November 13th, 2022. Within reason, we can hope that the eclipse energies, as they're dying down, and the celestial weather, as it kind of clears up, is going to give us a little bit easier ride than we've had for the last month or so. Going way back to the beginning of October, we've had some very stormy celestial weather. And although it isn't completely done with, it's never done with, but we have a couple of little bit more bumps on this particular cycle. It's not really all that dramatic, and I think we can probably handle it. I mean, if we've handled it thus far, we could probably handle it going forward. Very harmonious energy as we come out of the weekend and go through the first part of the week, as the Scorpio planets trine Neptune. Now, the sun trines Neptune on Monday. That means Sunday and Monday, we get this nice kind of vibe. The Scorpio sun looking for intensity, a little bit of a goth vibe, perhaps. But Neptune in Pisces is softening the glare. And I think that this is a little bit of an opportunity to, it's a kind of shamanic sort of, it's a shamanic journey. Let's put it that way. It's a little bit of hyperbole, but, that's fine. It's a bit of a shamanic journey. It's this kind of, you can go through any number of experiences, but you're learning something and you have a sense of moving forward. Now, speaking of having a sense of moving forward, Monday, Tuesday is also colored by an aspect between Venus and Jupiter. Now, these two best friends are in a nice harmonious trine to each other. Venus is out in Scorpio, where she is not happy. She's all about graciousness and beauty. Social norms in Scorpio will have none of that. So Venus doesn't really thrive in Scorpio. I mean, there's some really good sides to it, but in terms of like our collective socializing and stuff like that, it gives a little bit of a off kilter kind of feel. If you can get into it, it's really cool, but not everybody can. Jupiter's out in Pisces, which is flat out Venus's favorite sign, and Jupiter's really happy there too. So on the one hand, he's saying to her, to us, hold on just a little bit longer. Here out in 29 degrees of these signs, we can wait just a little bit for things to change. On the other hand, he's saying, again, shamanic journey, go deep. Don't hesitate to go deep into things. Don't hesitate to look at things that might seem like they wouldn't be that pleasant, because if you do, maybe you're going to learn something that you can carry forward. So, and I'll tell you the truth, if you want to look at it in a very mundane kind of way, well, Jupiter in Pisces trine Venus in Scorpio could be a kind of a nice, fun party sort of feel to it. So that's good. But the next day on the 16th, early on the 16th, that's Eastern time, Venus moves into Sagittarius, and that really heralds the beginning of Sagittarius season. The sun will get into Sagittarius on the 22nd, and Mercury makes his way in on the 17th, just a day after Venus. So Mercury is also trining Jupiter just before he moves into Sagittarius. Jupiter is the Sagittarius planet. That, again, Venus and Mercury connecting with the ruler of Sagittarius just before they get in. Let's say he's giving them a little bit of a tour of the house. They're there all the time anyway, but he's telling them, this is the way things are now. It's a good feeling. That Sagittarian energy brings some fire to the sky. We haven't had any fire in the sky. We have a lot of water in the sky. We have some air. We have some earth, but we have not had much in the way of fire in the sky. And so Venus and Mercury both getting into Sagittarius will be a really nice shift. It'll warm things up. It's like, it's like lighting a candle, it's a good feeling that we're picking up as we coast through midweek. I would suggest, again, to switch over to the more mundane side of things, I would suggest that midweek might be the best time for getting out and having a little bit of fun, just, enjoying yourself, however that is. It's a great time for creativity, all of that sort of stuff. The fun, happy part of the week. I would say midweek is almost like make it a little, the weekend in the middle of the week, do that kind of thing, because the energy there is just so good, and we could really be enjoying that fire. It's like on a cloudy day, a couple of cloudy days, and then like the sun breaks and you feel the warmth of the sun on you, and it just feels so good. That's what we can hope for. The way things are. I'm not making any promises. We could hope for that at midweek. The moon, the last quarter moon, is in Leo, and that's going to help things as well, especially for that Venus, for the Venus's entry into Sagittarius. The moon will be in Leo, and the moon has been the only celestial object that has really been carrying the fire energy each month for a month. And so again, there's real appreciation of the fire, appreciation of the light midweek. Then retrograde Mars squares Neptune. This is Friday. The 19th is Saturday, but I'm thinking that it's most likely to show up on Friday, and I suppose on Saturday. Now, Mars square Neptune is a bit of an issue. See, the thing about Mars and Neptune is that Mars is the planet of action, the warrior planet, right? And Neptune is about other worlds. And you don't really want the warrior to be dealing with things on the basis of other worlds. You look, Mars is exalted in the very practical sign of Capricorn. You want to have something to do, and you want it to be of an earthy nature. This is our energy, right? This is our energy, our drive. You want to have something on the earthly plane, not Neptune and Pisces influencing Mars. What can happen when Mars squares Neptune? Folks go off on a crusade. You get this sort of crusader energy. I know what I believe. I know what I think. Mars is in Gemini, and I'm going to go act on that. But what you're thinking is influenced by Neptune, which is not at all realistic. So it's not a great time for making decisions. It's not a great time for jumping into action. Now, while I'm sure that we all will be controlling ourselves, be aware that other folks may not be so restrained. Mars and Gemini, certainly there's a verbal side to it that can come out. Be very careful with driving. Mars Gemini square Neptune. People driving way too fast, going way beyond the limits. Stop signs and all of that kind of thing don't really seem like they're, why should we stop? Why should I slow down? There's a lot of that. And of course, there's always a possibility for a bit of road rage when you have Mars Neptune. There's always a possibility for road rage. But especially with this configuration, you can see a lot of it. Things just going off the rails is the way you might want to look at it. Think about Gemini, the sign of Gemini. It's a little bit like rails, right? It's going off the rails. People going off the rails. It doesn't mean you have to stay home. It doesn't mean anything bad is going to happen. Certainly not to you. In the collective, it's not the easiest kind of energy. If you look back to around October 12th, when Mars was squaring Neptune going direct right before his retrograde, you'll get a little bit of a resonance with what was happening at that time. You go back and check the news and stuff like that. Maybe we'll do a little recap of it. I'll put that in a Facebook post or something like that. See what happens around Friday, Saturday of this week that resonates with something that happened on October 12th or thereabouts. In your own personal lives, things that you were working on them, you probably have to go back and work on them again. You're going to have to wait until Mars goes direct and passes over this point way ahead in March before we really get the final answer, before the denouement comes. So it could be a bit of a wait. Be aware, though, that the issues that came up in mid-October are revisited now and with more intensity, because Mars is intense when he's retrograde. You see him up in the sky, he's a blazing red dot, and it almost doesn't look like it's a point. It looks like a disc. Very, very strong. So this energy is very, very strong. And of course, that it cannot be externalized. makes it worse. That's the thing. When you're acting and you're sort of impulsive and you're, just going crusading, that's potentially problematic, especially when you're acting on information that is not all that accurate. Now, when you have to internalize that energy, then it likely pops out in kind of an unexpected way. I know we're talking about Neptune, Mars, we're not talking about Uranus, but it's almost a Uranian kind of energy that we're looking at here. This pulling inwards, and then the energy sort of slips out. Okay. Also, too, Gemini, Pisces. We're very likely dealing with information that is a little bit off, or people are using their beliefs instead of actual facts. Or, the facts can be turned around and massaged a little bit. That's a Pisces, Gemini kind of thing. If those two signs are both active, we get a little bit of a playing with facts, changing things around. If you're at work, it's not a good time. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, not a great time for anything that requires precision. This is not good for precision. You might be able to sell something, you might be able to make a case for something, but you know what? Then you might have to go back and revise it again. I wouldn't say that the weekend is going to be a bust or anything like that. It'll probably be pretty okay. We still have enough lunar energy, although the moon was going to go through Virgo and then into Libra. And I'm not entirely sure that it's going to be quite as I would make my partying in midweek if you can. Of course, that might mean that you show up for work on Friday or Thursday or Friday and not in the best possible shape. There you go. You get that Mars Neptune thing. So we're moving away from the eclipse energy. Things are settling down as we get to the new moon, which is next week on November 23rd. That's an interesting day, November 23rd. We'll talk about that next week because there's always something interesting to talk about.